Welcome to ProgAxia and Prog's greatest albums. With me, Andy Phillips, and Dr. Prog himself, Paul Goodge, and in this edition we're going to be looking at the very incredible Radio Gnome Invisible Trilogy by Gong. Hi everybody, it's Andy Phillips here, and I've got Paul with me. Hi Paul.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about something which we love, and which is Gong. And we're going to be talking about the Radio Gnome Invisible Trilogy. Just put the albums up. So we've got Flying Teapot is number one, is the very first one. Then we have Angel's Egg, which is the second part. And then you, and you've got a different cover than I have.
Ah, may we? This is a Charlie R&B one. Not quite sure. It's some years ago, Andy. I'm not quite sure where it came from.
Still love the cover, though. I still love the cover. In fact, I think I prefer your cover. I really like that cover. It's a different one than I've got. So Gong. Where you sit with Gong? Because I know, I mean, we've spoken about Gong in the past, and we're both sort of fans and stuff like that. But just give us a bit of background of where you come from with Gong.
Well, I guess there's some groups, they release a track and you get drawn into it. So we may talk about Farewell to Kings later. Xanadu, that's a track that draws you in, into a world. And there are some groups that bring out albums that draw you into a world. So The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, imagining yourself as Rail, an Imperial Aerosol Kid, for example. Then you get Gong that draw you into not just a track or an album, but a world, the Gong world. So this trilogy tells a story of Hero, the Zero, and various other characters. And I think that's part of the attraction. And part of it is also just some really good playing. So Steve Hillage is a bit of a guitar god for me. But also just a sense of fun, because I know sometimes people can accuse progressive rock fans and musicians as being a bit po-faced and a bit earnest, and we could probably come up with supporting examples. But then you have stuff like this where they're clearly just let's have some fun, let's make a cup of tea and make some great music and possibly indulge in something whilst we're doing it. So that's for us. I mean, my contention, my hypothesis, Andy, is that people who say they don't like Gong haven't really sat down and listened to it, which may be a subset of progressive rock overall. I don't like Gong. What have you listened to? Not much, which is normally code for not at all, really. Just something about it I'm not prepared to pay attention to. So there you go. That's where I sit. I sit on the fan side of the fence.
Lovely. Same here. Because again, I think we've put into perspective. Gong is sort of part of that family of the Canterbury scene, and there's a lot of sort of mixing of people within this, but primarily these were a band, although part of the Canterbury scene, were very, very on the edge, very different to a lot of the Canterbury scene stuff, very hippie, very trippy, and something completely different. So we're going to talk about that trio of albums, because this was, to me, I guess for me it was the high point. It was the pinnacle of what Gong was. And I used to, I think I've told you before, we used to have like Gong Sundays, because it was my friend Brian who sort of introduced me to Gong. He was a very, very hippie sort of guy. And he had all the stuff. He had all the albums. I didn't have them till later on. It's probably about 77. He had at the time he was just like really, really big into them. But we used to have these sort of these Gong days, and it was brilliant to have these like Gong Sundays, and we just chill out, and I really mean chill out on a Sunday. And we play music from Gong, but we also play music from Steve Hillage and Amandal and Hawkwind and. It was that sort of day. But Gong was always the stuff. And the one that I used to play all the time was the live album, this wonderful live album, which has got a ton of stuff.
I didn't see it when you quickly. Was that Floating Anarchy, the 77?
No, this is the Gong live one. This is the. I'm a bit ashamed to show the cover of this, because it's a bit buggered, but the inner sleeves of this are absolutely wonderful. And listen to the live stuff, and actually looking at some of these these photographs, including this one here, which has got the I don't know if you can see that. It's the Nouvelle Hippodrome de Paris, which you hear lots of stories about, and that's the actual venue they went to. And it's got loads of photographs on it, which are great. Both of these things have got loads of photographs. I used to look through them, and sort of, especially this one here. This one really I don't know if you can see that. Can you?
I can see. Is that David Allen with his hat on?
David Allen now with a wizard's hat and stuff like that.
Yes.
But it just spoke to me. And then sort of getting into the whole trilogy more than anything else, and sort of trying to understand it, it just got to a stage where I'd sort of fallen in love with Gong, and I don't know, there was just something about it that just was just wonderful, you know.
It's a great image. You and your mate Brian. Instantly, the magic roundabout comes to mind, and
it's exactly that.
Chilling out with Afghan, indulging and relaxing and stuff. But that Canterbury scene reference, that's interesting because, as I understand it, Canterbury scene is somewhat sort of after the fact creation, because at the time, there wasn't really much of a scene, just like progressive rock. There wasn't much of a scene man. And what is a Canterbury sound? How would you define it? Because for every gong, you've got a caravan, you've got a Hatfield in the north, you've got a soft machine, and my word, didn't they change after a few albums? Matching mole, and all the rest of it. So it's a wonderful. It's a bit of a marketing thing, but I'm not sure it's a marketing thing that I don't know how well it's supported local tourism. I don't imagine there are too many people going down there going, hey man, I've come to check out the Canterbury scene. So does it support music tourism? Does it support bands to recreate it in their minds? There was a band called Siddhartha, wasn't there? A bunch of relatively young guys who put some stuff together with was it Kate Bush's brother, I think, or something?
Yeah.
So Canterbury scene, it's a wonderful notion, isn't it? But it's kind of to try and pin down.
I think it's one of those things that you start. It's easy to pigeonhole. It's sort of it's good sometimes to sort of try and place things in areas, and I think the Canterbury scene has been a bit of an overall catch-all, if you know what I mean, of the different bands of that time. Because there was, David Allen was in Soft Machine right at the beginning, although they didn't record. So and Soft Machine was part, was part of that whole scene. So it sort of dragged into it a little bit, but it's very much on the edge because David Allen, Australian, basically working in France, but I don't know. It sort of seems quite British in a lot of ways, because it's got that sort of Monty Python vibe to it,
it's whimsical. Doesn't take itself too seriously. Maybe some of David Allen's sort of French communal living coming across in a bit of existential type of perspective on life, but there's some English whimsy there, isn't there? I think yes, but sort of a bit like the Bonzos, sort of in that sort of like
substantial.
Let's see what we can do with this. So
because it's on one of these CDs that I got as well. They had a little pamphlet in there, and I was as I told you before we come onto the podcast, I've sort of been listening to Gong most of the day, just sort of having it on, floating in the background and stuff like that, and every so often sort of dipping into reading some of the literature around it, because it is Incredibly funny. So I just wanted to just read a couple of these things off.
Right.
This is on the Ultra Cosmic Gong Glossary, old cock.
Okay.
And this is not to be glossed over unless total incomprehension is preferable. So there's a little proviso on this as well, but it says Planet Gong, a transparent greenish planet unknown to astronomers and situated in the seventh sky or the seventh heaven. It operates according to the laws of music of the spheres. Radio Gnome Invisible, a telepathic pirate radio network operating brain to brain by crystal machine transmitter direct from Planet Gong. pothead pixies. These small green gents who populate the planet Gong have pointed heads with propellers which serve as receivers for Radio Gnome Invisible. Noted for their joyful capers, and they can become invisible at will, and when nearby, one's pot pouch is never empty. I love this.
And
it goes on. There's another one. I'll do this one more, which is flying teapots, like distant relatives to flying saucers, or distantly related to flying saucers. They are the chief means of transportation for the pointed and well-propelled population of the planet Gong, and they ride through spaces on the invisible Big Dipper Dragon lines called the Oily Way. So this is all, I mean, all these tracks that if you start reading about this stuff, it all starts pulling together as and it is a proper story. It's a proper story, which is, great for prog. We all love a proper story in a bit of prog. But it is bonkers. It's bonkers.
As you're saying, it plays through. If you've got the albums, I don't know what the CD reissues are like, but those stories play through. So So if, for example, we look at Angel's Egg, it has a track listing, but it's not a track listing sort of like you're normally used to. And it'll start with, Zero is offering Witch Yoni's pussy some fish and chips. And it will then go on to Yoni gives Zero the magic potion. Zero tries to make contact, but it's Captain Capricorn, and it works its way through. And and then you go on to the third album, which I think is Oily Whale, etc. on it, isn't it? So yeah, it plays itself through. So there's some interrelationship there, isn't it? And I don't know that they did this. Maybe they did, but some bands were great at then sort of like trying to put all this sort of artwork and paratext, whatever you want to call it, into the stage show as well. I'm not quite sure how much they did that with sort of set designs and so on. I suspect it was a bit more anarchic than that. But the way it all knits together in their heads, and it then starts to knit together in our heads, doesn't it? It's quite inspirational to a young man's mind, I think.
Yeah. I think what's my favourite album out of the three of them is the last one. I don't know whether it's just because it was the last one, and I think it was probably recorded a little bit better and all that sort of thing. But it's got this wonderful sound that just grabs you. I mean, I love all the albums, but I think you was probably my favourite. I don't know about you.
Yeah, because if I look at the track listing, some of them really stand out. Master Builder, Isle of Everywhere, and You Never Blow Your Trip Forever. I mean, those are the ones that sort of stand out for me. And they've all got their charms, don't they? Yeah, they've all got their charms, I think. The Prostitute Poem, of course, lovely.
Yeah, I mean, Angel's Egg is good, because you've got things like Oily Way and Out of Temple, in a Temple, which I loved. I mean, I love that on the live one as well. And they're all great. And I think the very first one is this, although it's probably not as well recorded as the others. It does have a charm. It has a real beauty to it, and you've got things like Radio Gnome Invisible, Flying Teapot, Pothead Pixies, the Octave Doctors, and the Crystal Machine. Zero, the Hero, and the Witch's Spell. And it sort of sets everything up, and there's a lot of stuff in there, which is all part of that story.
And you can't help but smile at it, because now looking at the inside of, for those of you watching at home, on the left-hand side, now it's got the Where's the Tea? Avalaga, Banana Nirvana Manana, which of course they chant away, don't they? You find yourself going back into the chant, Banana Nirvana Manana. So you can lose yourself for some minutes in that chant.
And the weird thing is that whenever I make a cup of tea, it always comes into my head. Have a cup of tea, lovely cup of tea, have a cup of tea, bubbly bum. It always comes in, Yeah. I mean, even today, this morning when I was making a cup of tea, because I knew we were going to do this podcast later, and it's straight in my head.
It's a great musical legacy, isn't it? Have a cup of tea. Have a cup of tea.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So that's that trilogy, the Gong trilogy, the Radio Gnome Invisible Trilogy. Any sort of last little remarks?
Just for those who haven't thrown themselves into it, I mean, these 3 albums will take up 2 hours of your life. Yeah, just one of them, obviously 40 minutes or so. Just throw yourself into it. I put the headphones on, have your oral joint, and just throw yourself into the world of Gong for 40 minutes, and you may be pleasantly surprised if you're a Gong virgin. Go for it.
Yeah, get involved with the Octave Doctors and Zero the Hero and the Pothead Pixies and Radio Gnome Invisible. It's absolutely fantastic. Let us know if you are a Gong fan, or if you haven't even heard of any of this stuff. If you're not into Gong, let us know, and go and listen to some. You can, it's all over YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So definitely go and have a listen and dip your toe in the water. And if you like this sort of stuff, don't forget to subscribe, put your comments in, and Paul, see you next time, mate.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on the ProgAxia podcast. Don't forget to like this video and also to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us. We'll see you next time.